suppose you had a million cows or something, you wanted to count them, you'd very soon get mixed up. In fact, that's one of the reasons animals go in herds, because the pursuing animal, the lion, will get mixed up as to which one he's chasing. But in any case, you couldn't keep track of these million sheep. So you put a fence around the whole thing and let them out one at a time and count them, you see. So that's, in a way, the function of the ego. It can't deal with the whole mass of reality at once. So it does it by this trickle method, and it takes many lifetimes to do it. But eventually it gets what it needs, and that's the time to give up the ego, not before.
And so what you're saying is that the ego seems to function in time. When you talk about the trickle method, it's like a counter or time.
Well, you might not have the same sex or the same ego in different lifetimes, but you have an ego, just the way you get a new automobile, etc.
And you sometimes use the term monad, Arthur, to refer, I guess, to the, not to the ego, but to the deeper self.
Well, that's the classic word for the deeper self. But then we have to go into the question of the distinction between soul and spirit. I always remember the philosophy class that I was allowed to address in Colorado, and they all sat there like bumps on a log, couldn't be more or less interested. So I asked them, what's the difference between soul and spirit? They all perked up right away. They'd never heard that one. And I won't ask you, but it's very important to distinguish soul and spirit. They may actually interchange meanings. We talk of, well, Hamlet's spirit, his father's spirit was the ghost, but that's more in the sense of soul. But in any case, there's a distinction between the monad, which is not in time or space, it's sort of the higher self.
That would be the spirit.
I would prefer to call that the spirit, whereas the soul is the vehicle of experience, that which goes into matter and suffers. And
in other words, the soul, when we think of someone being soulful, we're referring to their emotions, their longings, their ambitions, their desires, their suffering, and so on. And yet the spirit is, at some level, maybe detached from all of that.
Yes, right. But people use the words interchangeably, as they do with all words. But as long as you make the basic distinction, of course, to go on with the philosophy class, as soon as I made it clear that the soul was the vehicle for the going into different lifetimes, and they want to know, how did I demonstrate or prove the survival of the soul after death? And I did what I hadn't done before except once. The only thing I had available was a piece of chalk. And I showed how nice and round the chalk was, and it was so long, and it had such and such a shape. And I said, I'm going to destroy this piece of chalk. And I put it in my mouth and ate it. Well, of course, then the chalk kept coming out of my mouth. Now, the form is gone, I said, but the substance lingers on. And this is true in physics itself. You can destroy the form of things, but you can't destroy the matter, energy, substance, content. And it's that matter, energy, substance, content that is the soul. When I say matter, I'm saying it in the sense that it's without form. The ancients used the term water, because water takes on whatever shape you pour it into. You pour the wine into the glass, and it's glass shape. The intellect can focus on the shape, but it can't deal with the substance. You have to drink the wine and experience it to get the substance.
Well, is there a sense then to you that at death, as the body decays, and I suppose even the soul and all of its longings somehow dissipate, that...
No, because that longing persists. It's like an energy, and it makes you find another body in order to satisfy that longing.
And yet that that soul, that energy, that longing, it is somehow distinct. I mean, my longing is different than your longing.
Right. Well, I'm not saying that there's a loss of one's monad, one's individuality.
Yeah.
But you lose the ego, and like you might lose your identity card.